Before there was Godfather of Metal, before biting bats on stage, before the Osbournes turned him into TV royalty, there was a voice grown in darkness, a man who turned sorrow into anthems. John Michael Ozzy Osbourne was the frontman who defined heavy metal, and whose final bow was as dramatic and defiant as his life. Born in Birmingham in 1948, Ozzy passed away on July 22, 2025. But he left behind more than music. He left a movement. Who was Ozzy Osbourne? The Prince of Darkness, who redefined rock forever. Before there were flames, before there were bats, before the eyeliner and the shambling gait, and the decades of bewildered TV moments, there was just a boy named John. Born in the working-class fog of Birmingham, England, in December of 1948, John Michael Osbourne didn't seem destined for infamy, for legend, or for rock and roll immortality. He was just a kid with undiagnosed dyslexia, an obsession with the Beatles, and a voice that sounded like gravel soaked in bourbon and then exorcised by something unholy. No one could have known that this boy would one day terrify parents, inspire generations, redefine the sound of metal, and of course, bite the head off a bat in front of a crowd of screaming fans. Ozzy Osbourne wasn't just a musician, he was a walking contradiction. A man who channeled demons on stage and cried over puppies in interviews. A self-proclaimed madman who somehow outlived most of his peers despite consuming enough drugs and alcohol to kill a rhinoceros in a single weekend. A man who believed in the power of darkness but shone brighter than most stars ever could. But now, as of July 2025, the Prince of Darkness is gone. And what remains is something louder than any amp stack he ever blew out. His legacy. This is the story of Ozzy Osbourne. The man, the myth, the reality show dad, the rock god, and the absolute chaos that followed him like a shadow in fishnet stockings. John Michael Osbourne was born to Lillian and Jack Osbourne in the industrial heart of Birmingham. His father worked in a tool factory. His mother was a factory worker as well. It wasn't exactly a musical household. Ozzy once said in interviews that his neighborhood was so grim, even rats avoided it. Poverty and dysfunction were everyday companions. But then something happened. He heard the Beatles. Like so many British kids in the 60s, Ozzy's entire worldview shifted the moment John, Paul, George, and Ringo hit the airwaves. He would later say, "They made me want to be a rock star. That's it. That's the reason." He dropped out of school, floated from job to job, and even spent time in jail for petty theft. Not exactly a meteoric start. But then came music. Real, brutal, primal music. In 1968, Ozzy met guitarist Tony Iommi, bassist Geezer Butler, and drummer Bill Ward. Together, they formed a band that would change everything. Originally called Earth, they later renamed themselves Black Sabbath after a horror film playing at a local cinema. They figured if people love horror movies, maybe they'd love horror music too. Turns out, they were right. Sabbath didn't just play loud, they played evil. Their music was doom-laden, sludgy, thick with dread. Ozzy's vocals, high-pitched and howling, soared above the gloom like some kind of tortured angel. Their 1970 debut album, Black Sabbath, is widely considered the birth of heavy metal. Its opening track, with the sound of rain, a church bell, and a demonic riff, set the tone for an entire genre. And Ozzy? He was the face of it. He wasn't the greatest technical singer, but he didn't need to be. His voice had character. It was instantly recognizable. It sounded like he'd seen things, dark things. He delivered lyrics about war, death, insanity, and the occult with such sincerity that you weren't sure if he was acting or confessing. Over the next decade, Black Sabbath released a string of iconic albums: Paranoid, Master of Reality, Volume 4, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Songs like Iron Man, War Pigs, and Paranoid became anthems, not just for disaffected teens, but for an entire counterculture. Parents hated it, critics dismissed it, but fans worshipped it. But Ozzy was never just battling stage fright. He was battling himself. His addiction issues began early and grew monstrous. By 1979, the band had had enough. After a particularly volatile period of substance abuse and missed rehearsals, Sabbath fired him. You'd think that would be the end. Instead, it was the beginning. Sharon Arden, daughter of music mogul Don Arden, stepped in. She believed in Ozzy when almost no one else did. More importantly, she had a plan. With her support, and later, her marriage, Ozzy launched a solo career that no one expected would work. But then came Blizzard of Oz. Released in 1980, it was a revelation. With guitarist Randy Rhoads delivering blistering neoclassical solos and Ozzy sounding reborn, the album gave us Crazy Train, Mr. Crowley, and 1,000 Halloween soundtracks. Ozzy wasn't just back, he was better than ever. Tragedy struck when Rhoads died in a plane crash in 1982. Ozzy was devastated. He fell into deeper addiction. But he kept going. Diary of a Madman, Bark at the Moon, No Rest for the Wicked, No More Tears. All proof that Ozzy's solo career was more than just a second act. It was a full-on resurrection. And of course, there were the scandals. The bat. Oh, the bat. During a 1982 concert in Des Moines, a fan threw what Ozzy thought was a rubber bat onto the stage. Spoiler, it wasn't. Ozzy bit its head off, live, in front of thousands. He was rushed to the hospital for rabies shots. And somehow, the moment only made him more iconic. Then there was the time he urinated on the Alamo while wearing Sharon's dress. Or the infamous Dove decapitating incident in a meeting with record executives. You can't make this stuff up. And Ozzy didn't need to. His life was a living rock opera of absurdity. But underneath the madness was something sincere. Ozzy loved his fans. He loved music. He hated the demons that tried to drag him down. Addiction, depression, guilt. But he never stopped fighting. And that fight made him relatable, even as he strutted around in sequined capes and eyeliner. In the 2000s, he reinvented himself again, this time as a reality TV star. The Osbournes, which aired from 2002 to 2005, was a chaotic, hilarious, and at times touching look into the domestic life of Ozzy, Sharon, Jack, and Kelly. We saw the Prince of Darkness fumbling with remotes, mumbling through cereal choices, and swearing at thin air. It was perfect. The show made Ozzy a household name for a new generation. No longer just the guy who invented heavy metal, he became America's favorite confused dad. It should have been a career killer. Instead, it turned him into a meme, before memes were even mainstream. Behind the scenes, Ozzy continued to struggle. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, suffered a major fall that damaged his spine, and underwent numerous surgeries. But he kept recording, kept touring, sometimes in a wheelchair. He wasn't just living with illness, he was spitting in its face. And then came July 2025. The world stopped. Headlines screamed it. Ozzy Osbourne was gone. The Prince of Darkness, the Madman, the Batbiter, the Survivor, had finally left the stage. But did he really? Because the thing about icons, real icons, is that they never truly die. Ozzy's music still blares from car stereos. His face still adorns t-shirts. His voice still echoes through generations of bands that wouldn't exist without him. From Metallica to Slipknot, every scream, every riff, every breakdown owes something to that kid from Birmingham who just wanted to be like the Beatles and ended up becoming something even more unforgettable. Ozzy wasn't perfect. He'd be the first to admit it. But he was real. And in a world of auto-tune and image management, that rawness was priceless. He gave us madness, yes, but also melody. He gave us horror, but also humor. He was the monster under the bed and the grandfather in fuzzy slippers. And in his contradictions, we saw ourselves. So who was Ozzy Osbourne? He was the Prince of Darkness, the godfather of metal, the bat-slaying, TV-shouting, eyeliner-wearing icon who taught us that even the most broken voices can sing the loudest songs. Rest in peace, Ozzy. Or more likely, raise hell somewhere louder. And in the end, Ozzy Osbourne didn't just burn brightly, he exploded like a bottle of Jack Daniels tossed into a volcano, laughing all the way down. He was more than just a rocker. He was chaos in motion. He fell, he rose, he bit the head off fame, and kept going. And now that he's gone, the silence feels a little heavier. But somewhere out there, thunder still echoes with a scream that sounds a lot like Ozzy. Rest in power, legend.